When I turned 14 years old, I started working at a local pizza place as a dishwasher, working about 20 to 25 hours a week while I was in eighth grade. And then when I went to high school, I did sports. So luckily, my boss used to run track like I did in high school and gave me a little bit of leeway with getting to work a little late. So I would go to school, go to practice, take the bus to work until about 10:30 at night, go home, do homework, go to sleep, repeat the process. And I did that throughout my high school career, and I did that for the first year of college when I was 19. And then I thought, you know what? We need some retail experience. And I went out and got a job at a retail store. And from that point, I always worked between 2 to 3 jobs, typically retail, because it's easiest to get into. And that's what everyone was doing. That's what everyone does. You either work as a server or a bartender when you turn 21, or you work in retail. That's what everybody does, unless you went to school for something else and you got in a little early. But when you have a limit of how many hours you can work a week as a part-time employee, which is usually 25 to 27 depending on the store, it really limits you to how much money you can make when you're getting paid basically minimum wage. And before you say anything, I got promoted to a third key manager at one of the stores, and guess what I got paid? I went from $7.37 to $8.10. I was killing it, as you can imagine. And when I realized this is kind of my cap, because the next level up is assistant manager, and I can't do that unless I'm full time, and I can't do that when I'm going to school. So it took me a while, but eventually I found another career path that allowed me to make more money and gave me a better skill set and put me to where I am now today. My name is Chris. I own a local junk removal business here in Southeast Florida, and I've been doing this since 2020. Now, before we get to the moving side, which is the job I got into, I just want to talk about one job first and why I think volume isn't always best. After my trend of retail stores, I ran into somebody I used to work with at the pizza place, and he worked for a catering shop. I went to that catering shop, I got the job. Small business, so a little bit more leeway with how much you can work people, sort of. I ran a account for a very high-end place that you could argue is a 3 to 4 man team year-round. I did it by myself. Why? Because they were cheap, and that's just how they did things. I did this for about 3.5 years. Now, for 3 of those years, that place is busy season 8 months of the year. Busy season for me was working 100 to 110 hours a week, and off season is about 60 to 75. Now, long hours, I made it by sleeping in 30-minute naps here and there, and once in a while you get a day off, and a lot of energy drinks. Not the healthiest, and this is where I say the volume isn't always better. When you start pushing your numbers a little higher, I would say past 80, you're pushing into lack of sleep, lack of personal time, and things like that really add up. Now, you might be thinking you're working 110 hours a week, you gotta be making at least $10 an hour. I was. But when you do the math of how much you're working compared to how much you're getting paid, you're actually not making that much money when you think about the physical toll that you're putting on yourself. So I just wanted to put that out there, that working more in a significant amount isn't always better. Now, when I left that, I did go back to 1 or 2 restaurants before getting into moving. And moving was just kind of a random thing I came up upon on Indeed. It was paying $10 an hour, and I was like, okay, that's kind of the goal I wanted to at least start with, because that's better than what I had ever gotten working in retail. And when I saw that there was opportunity for growth, there was opportunity to make more money with tips and commissions through selling material or upselling a job in any way, I thought, we could probably do this. I was already in shape. I was kind of working out. I know I'm skinny now, but I had a little bit more muscle 10 years ago. And I decided, you know what? Let's give that a shot. Now, granted, despite my long work hours, I was in debt, and by about 5,000 to 6,000. Now, when I started this moving job, I was still living at home because catering didn't do well for me. I was in debt, and I didn't really have a savings. I was broke. And I told my boss, I said, hey, if you can, I want to work every single day. As long of the hours as you can give me, I'm willing to work. I have a goal. I am very motivated to get that goal done, and I would like to do it as fast as possible. And he said, no problem. I had good rankings as I got there. I worked my way up to a crew leader, which I was making $14 an hour, and I did that within like a month or 2. So now I'm making, for the most part, should make commission on that. They're not going to tell you that, but I mean, there is a good reason for it. It's protecting your stuff. But because they are upcharging their products to sell, you're going to make a commission. for most companies. Overall, for 7.5 weeks, I did not have a day off. I got what I wanted. And I paid down that debt, and I saved up another I think $2,800 to $3,000 as an emergency fund to start. And I continued that for 6 months. And I was able to move out on my own, get my own place, had an emergency fund savings, and really got more into finances and kind of controlling what I want to do and how I want to start planning for retirement and investing. And none of this ever crossed my mind when I was working multiple retail jobs, because at that point it was just do whatever you can to survive. You wake up and go to school in the morning for 4 hours. I would go to a retail job from like 12:30 to 6:30, have an hour and a half, 2 hour gap, go do replenish job from like 10 p.m. until like 5 a.m. or sometimes 3 a.m. to 9 a.m., whatever it looked like. And that was my life for what I was basically making like $250 a week, which kind of sucks if you think about it. So here I am making a couple of grand a week. I'm working, I'm busting my ass doing it, but you're making great money and you're learning a valuable skill set. And little did I know that the skill set would turn into a business later on, because I realized, you know what, I'm pretty good at moving, but I don't like the management side. You're on their clock, you're on their terms very strictly until they say, okay, you're done. And you don't have too much say. If you don't want to get fired, they can go find somebody else the next day. So it really put a light in my head that said, all right, we're kind of stuck here. We're making better money, but we're also working longer hours. I'm kind of pushing that catering lifestyle again. I think my highest moving work week was like 88 hours. And my combined for the 2 weeks, because you got paid bi-weekly, was 138 hours, 139 hours, which doesn't sound like that much when you compare it to what I used to do weekly at catering. But keep in mind, this is physical labor. And then when you're not physically laboring a job, you're driving a truck that puts you pretty close to where you would need for a CDL. You don't need one because we're under 26,000 pounds, but you're operating a heavy vehicle in late nights and when you're tired, and there's just a lot of mental drainage on top of running a job, running a crew, keeping the customer happy, making sure things aren't being damaged, trying to train while also trying to work at the same time and move heavy stuff. You're like physically tired all the time. There's a lot that goes into it. It was all a learning experience that taught me a lot. And some of the things it taught me was, number one, how to move stuff. And not just move stuff, but move stuff by myself. A lot of times you're working with people and they don't know what they're doing. It's their first day. They just suck in general. And you can't really train them when you're trying to get a job done and a customer is paying you hourly. And you kind of end up just doing your stuff yourself and then have them like run boxes to kind of fill in the time. It really taught me a lot. And it taught me how to handle upset customers. It taught me how to handle operations. It taught me how to prevent damage of items, of causing property damage. It taught me how to move these big bulky items that before you get into the industry, you think is insane. When I started doing junk removal, I did it on my own for the first 4 years. Every now and then I'd have like a 1099 come help me on like a longer job or like a really big job. For the most part, even larger property cleanouts, I was by myself. I show up to somebody's house and they're like, where's your other guy at? I'm like, it's just me. And they're like, well, you're not going to be able to move this couch. It's a sleeper sofa. The movers had trouble getting it in. And I said, I understand, but I've done this quite a few times. Do you mind just showing me it? I go look at it, look around. All right, got a tight hallway. I'll stand it up on an angle. I'll swivel it out, put it down on a pad, drag it out, stick it on the hand truck, bring it out the front door. You're done. Customer was like, holy shit, I didn't think you could do that. Comes with the territory. I'm used to doing that by myself, along with the knowledge and the experience you gain. So what I'm kind of getting at is I wish I had explored my options as far as the type of jobs I could have gotten. Because even with moving, if I had classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I would just say, hey, I can't work Tuesdays and Thursdays. I have classes. And then at night, I would just work and make sure I got my work done. But what it would have done is taught me much more valuable skill sets that are pretty universal. Everyone's always going to need a mover. That's something that AI can't do. They can't have these machines go in and move people's stuff for them. So there will always be moving. And that's kind of a recession-proof job, because no matter how broke you are, not everyone can do a job themselves and they're going to need to hire a moving company. So just the fact that alone would have kept me busy all throughout my 20s while keeping in shape and learning more valuable skill sets than trying to operate a cashier or trying to put things back on a peg really quickly before you have to redo the whole POG setup anyways. And it really just taught me more about myself. It taught me more about customers. It taught me more about operations. It taught me more about problem solving. And it allowed me to one day say, you know what? I want to do something on my own. I'm going to start a junk removal business. I could have done moving, but I was kind of getting tired of moving. I like the core concept, but not the stresses that come with it. Junk removal, 10 times easier. Same concept, same goal of not damaging property, but now you don't have to worry about the piece itself, which we still try to donate so we don't intentionally just smash things up, as you may see in some channels, but we try to take care of things, but you don't have to worry about, dang it, I scratched the side of this. I cracked the glass from pressure. You don't have to worry about that. And trust me, that's such a huge benefit to junk removal. And it allowed me to work for myself, and it allowed me to work for people where you get to learn their story. I'm surrounded by clutter all day, and I grew up in that setting, so it's very familiar to me. And it's allowed me to really be flexible with my schedule and, kind of guide my own days. And if we need to go do something for a weekend, we just don't work for a weekend. If I need a doctor's appointment, I just don't schedule a job around that time. You couldn't do that when you work out of the stores. You have to request for time off. You have to take PTO. And that's assuming it even gets accepted, which is pretty crazy how often it doesn't. And especially for really important things. So if I could tell my younger self what to do a little differently, it would have been to explore options outside of the norm. Everyone was doing restaurants or retail. No one was doing moving in my friend group. No one was working in trades in my friend group. And moving is an entry-level job. A lot of people don't think about that, but you can be a felony. You could have suspended driver's license. You can have a terrible track record with resumes. You will likely get hired as a mover, and they will train you, and if they don't like you, they fire you. But if you do well, you can easily promote yourself and work up to management. You can work into a crew leader, or you can learn your own skill set and, get out and do something on your own. And that's what I did. So I wish I had just explored more options, something outside of the realm of what everyone else was doing, and especially something that gives me a little bit more power to how much money I can make, because that alone was such a huge stress relief. I had just never been great with money because I never made a lot. And being able to make that money and then be smart with it really helped put me in a much better situation, not just financially, but just in life. So that is what I would tell my younger self. And for anyone watching this, what I'm trying to push across is there is always option for what you can do to make a better life for yourself. And it may not seem like it, you just gotta do your research. Whether you have, you don't have a car maybe, or you live at home, you go to school, or you take care of a family member, there's always something that you can do. You could work remotely from home. You can work at night. There's jobs you can work at night because on the other side of the world is the opposite time. And maybe they just need someone to do data entry. Maybe they need someone to enter emails or do marketing, stuff that they will teach you to do, and you can make 10, 12, 15 bucks. Nowadays, minimum wage is like 15 bucks most places. So just think about the ideas of what you can do that may be a little differently, but most places are willing to train you if you show initiative. If you show, hey, I'm looking to do this to better my own life, and I'm willing to work, I'm willing to put in the hours, I just need somebody to teach me. Most places will hire you with or without a college degree, with or without experience. And that alone is something that I think can make a big difference for a lot of people. And if you're comfortable with it and you have any kind of skill set, go work for yourself. I encourage it. Junk removal has been blowing up over the last couple of years. Everyone and their mother is making a junk removal company, and sometimes it gets a little frustrating, but it's just like any other industry. If you want to do junk removal, go do junk removal. I'm not against it. But if you have something you want to do, go do it. And if you need special requirements like a degree or a certification, go get them. If you just need something to bypass the time, but to make things a little bit more financially stable for you, do your research, look around, look into things that maybe require labor if you're not really a laborist. Look into things that require a little bit more of a tech field if you're not into tech. If they are willing to teach you and you're willing to learn, then you can make a big difference for yourself. So that is what I would tell my younger self, is don't just follow the routine of what everyone else does. Everyone says, go do this, go do that, go work here, go work at Publix. You don't have to. You can go work something that's a little different, that's gonna pay you a little bit better, you're gonna be able to control a little better, And if you're smart about it, you can start to create your own path. So that is what I would recommend to myself. This came up in our networking group today, and that's what I kind of thought about in my head. I only had 2 minutes to talk about it, so I just said to be passionate, because when you start a business, it's not like a 9 to 5 job. You're thinking about it 24/7. I could be at dinner, I'm thinking about business. I could be at the movie theater. If it's a good movie, I'm watching the movie, but sometimes I think about business. I see something drive by, I'm like, that'd be kind of cool if we put that on our truck. Business. So there's a lot that goes into it, but it's more rewarding than anything else. Stressful still, but rewarding, and you learn as you go. So that is my 2 cents on the subject. Let me know if you had a similar upbringing as mine when it comes to work. I'm not talking about personal lives and family and stuff like that, just strictly work. Let me know if you also went down the retail and restaurant route, going through college and part-time jobs, and you ended up doing something that you realized, I wish I had done this when I first started. I would love to hear it. But until next time, if you're interested in junk removal, check out the rest of our channel. We talk a lot about how to move stuff safely, and we also used to talk a lot about doing solo work. We have some marketing tips in there, some pricing tips if you're looking to get into the industry, or if you're looking to get into moving, you can still learn from that. And if you're not interested in junk removal, then I encourage you to look into what you are interested in. But that is it for me. Everyone have a nice day.